Hey guys, this is episode 2 of the Chug Life podcast, and we are here with a very special guest. But before I get to talking about our special guest, I want to remind everybody this season I just really want to bring a lot of different voices, and the way I'm going to go about that is by going directly to you. I want to get in contact with you. If you have anything that you feel like you want to talk about, things that maybe, it might do somebody some good to hear about, whether it be a business endeavor, a band, whether it be personal things, reach out. And I definitely want to have a conversation with you. Why the hell not? Anyhow, this season's going to be very different, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm very fucking excited for it. Anyhow, our special guest today is Nich Thomas. And Nich Thomas he's the entrepreneur of Springfield, I guess I would say, up and coming. This guy is, man, just go to his website. That's all I'm going to tell you. If you like to smoke, all right, and you like to have a good time with your pipes and see some really wild shit, go to his website, 420pipes.com. It is a good time. And Nich, what's up, dude? Introduce
Hey, how's
yourself.
it going, man? Hey, yeah, I'm Nick. I'm a Springfield resident, born and raised in Taylorville, and I run 420pipes.com.
Hell yeah. And with your wife, right?
Yeah, my wife and our business partner Ellen.
Wow. That is awesome, man. And what started 420 Pipes?
Yeah, so like my big thing with 420 Pipes was, I come from like a professional background. Whenever I was 18, I became a loan officer. So like a lot of people in my circle weren't really smoking weed like I was until it became legal. So for years I was like on the DL, like low key, smoking out of my hand pipes, my bongs and stuff. And once it became yeah, exactly. But once it became like more acceptable, I started getting a lot more people in my circles in it. Once they saw like, oh, we're not gonna get in trouble. This isn't really harmful. We can give it a shot, and they liked it. But that's the fun thing about sharing the culture with people. The bad thing about teaching people how to get high is that they start breaking all your stuff. So it started to get expensive for us to constantly replace like my bongs and stuff from the shops nearby. And I've always been a little bit of an entrepreneur at heart. I didn't know that. I just had these ideas and they were crazy and I wanted to follow them. And then one day I was trying to work on. I had a Kickstarter for a board game that I made called Economy. That didn't work out because I got kind of burnt and I didn't really do very much marketing for the Kickstarter. And I was trying to figure out what went wrong and how I could fix that. And I had the idea to sell chillums out of my garage just randomly. I'm like, well, I could sell chillums for $4.20 and raise cash, sell them to my friends. If there was anywhere that I could get them for cheaper, even if I wasn't making very much money on that. And I was like, well, 420 pipes, that's probably already taken. Like if we're selling everything for $4.20, I was like, there's no way that's available. And I searched it, and there was not a company called 420pipes.com. And I was like,
Whoa.
well, that seems like a sign. I was like, that seems. There was one that was in Florida that had closed down and hadn't been active in years. So I was like, huh, I need to do this, And
Wow.
I'm a fan of the ganja, smoking weed, getting high, and also the medical benefits and stuff that come along with that as well.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had seen that it had a positive impact on my life. But interestingly enough, like I had already been like shunned and stuff from the cult that I was in because of smoking weed, which I can talk about later if you want. But
definitely.
but I realized like I'm gonna go with this. I told my boss at the credit union that I was working at the time that I wanted to do it. He's like, I don't know, that seems like really small margins. He's right, but I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna go for it anyway. And he even messaged me a couple months ago and he told me that he's proud of me for pursuing this, something that I'm passionate about. So.
Dude, that's huge. Seriously, I mean, one of the big things, and I do want to segue really quickly into another conversation, but I do want to talk about what it really means to continue following what you want to do. And it's not easy. And it's not something, you never hear people going and saying, hey, do what you want to do. It's going to make you happy. There's very few people, and this is my experience, all right? It's also very grim because I came from a completely, I would say, I don't want to call it bad, but the way that I was brought up, it wasn't necessarily follow your dreams. It was more so do what I tell you to do and do what has worked for us and follow these sureties. All right. I can tell you that if you go to college and you spend or fork out $100,000, you will get a job making $45K to $50K a year. And if you're lucky, you can make 60 or 80K. But you never hear those same folks telling you, hey, you should do what you want to do because it's going to make you happy. And truly, the way and the path to longevity is always doing what makes you happy. And it's a very difficult path to follow because it is literally littered in pricks and cacti and all of these different materials to make sure you don't go that way and that you aren't even going to be interested in it because it looks so difficult and it sounds so impossible until you're in the thick of it and you finally decide, that's it, we're gonna do it. Why not? You've gotten, there's some folks that will get to the most bottom pits in their lives until they hit that moment. And then there's other folks that get very lucky and they have a lot of fortitude that goes along with that because it's not just luck by any means. I'd never want to make that's not even close. You have to have a lot of fortitude to make this plan, see it through, and continue on.
You have to be dumb enough to make it work.
Oh yeah. Man, I can tell you so many different stories of people going out on a limb and just ending up being the happiest, most rich motherfuckers to ever live. And I can also tell you the stories of folks that haven't. And so it's, that's really the brutality of it, folks. All right, is that sometimes it's going to be very difficult and you have to see it through in those difficult moments. And man, it is sometimes a lot to bear. And you always have to remember what the end of the tunnel looks like. What is it going to be like a year from now? What is it going to be like 2 years from now? And some days, man, time can slow down to such a factor because of your misery in that moment that you fail to even think about what it's going to be like tomorrow. And look, maybe telling yourself it could be worse, but I could also give you 5 reasons why it's going to be better. That's that. Anyhow, Nick, you mentioned the possible, side effects, good side effects of smoking weed. Because some folks just think that, you get high as fuck and, you have a good time, man. Do you have anything, that you can tell us that's good about smoking weed?
Sure. I mean, first of all, whenever you're an entrepreneur, or somebody who's trying to do their own thing or do something a little bit differently, just the creative effects of sativa are tried and true for a reason, Obviously, like, that's kind of a stereotypical thing, you smoke some weed, you make some good music, or you do art or whatever, you create Apple, whatever. So
wait. I think he did LSD, bro.
He did all sorts of things, man. Let's not. He definitely smoked some weed in there, man. You don't do
for sure.
Not weed.
Dude, that shit went hand in hand, bro.
Oh yeah, it still does, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, true.
But um, so for me, like, I get wrapped up in my head. I think all the time. I have this big issue, just all my life, where I'm always thinking ahead, and I start circling out and like thinking too much, like too many steps ahead. And I always have like wacky ideas that are, like a subversion from the norm for anything. My business partner told me that I have like the inability to turn off the thought when it comes to like shortcuts and problem solving and efficiency. Like, I can't just let things be. I always have to become more efficient with it. I always have to
Damn.
find a solution that's quick, and it's true. And I
Would you
definitely
say
have
you're
been accused
always
of.
tweaking the formula?
Yeah. I mean, definitely, I get bored otherwise, and if you get bored, then you're not really going to be in it. You know what I'm saying? You have to constantly
Complacency.
be. Yeah, and you have to constantly be tweaking things to grow. If you're not, especially this early on in the business, as young as I am now, I constantly have to be changing. Otherwise, I'm gonna be stuck. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I need to grow. I definitely don't have everything figured out. I'm 23. This is a 2.5 or 2 year old company,
Yeah.
so like,
Oh
you
yeah, dude.
constantly, but both in business and in life, you gotta constantly be willing to make some changes and to do some thinking for the long term.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think that's one of the more recent things that I've learned, but has helped me a lot over the last, several months here, is that, like, really, when you're doing your own thing, how you start to structure your business and start to become how you structure your life, like your personal life. Those things go hand in hand. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't check it on the business, if you have stuff that, isn't necessarily organized or good in your personal life, that'll probably shine over to your business. So you start making systems to fix that in your business, but what happens is that starts fixing it in your personal life too,
Yep.
if you follow the same standards.
Yeah, you always got to
So
try and keep that separated. Having your
yeah.
personal life intertwined with business very rarely leads to, just from my experience, honestly, just it leads to a lot of bickering. So you have to always learn, hey, I still love you. just
Oh
just keep that
yeah,
in
yeah.
mind. You gotta keep
Oh,
those
no, no, no. I
things,
meant, I didn't mean
always
like,
separated.
yeah, yeah. I just meant like, I have a lot of operations that happen in my business, so I have to
Hmm.
start systemizing and organizing everything.
Yeah.
Personally, like, I got diagnosed with like ADHD when I was 21, but I've definitely just had
Wow.
that my whole life. My grandpa's got it, my dad's got it. Like, everybody,
Yep.
everybody that I know definitely has it. So I'm definitely, like, naturally not really organized, and I like, even this podcast, I had it set up. I had reminders telling me that I do this podcast. Otherwise, it might not have even been on my mind, since I didn't see it.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So, like, I have to. The things that I've learned to do to make my business operate, especially with a small team. When you have a small team, you're the one that's still doing the work.
Yep.
So if I'm putting a system in place, I have to make sure that I can do the work, and that it's done in a way that you know irons out my mistakes.
Hmm. Man,
So
so it having your wife and another partner in this, is it, I imagine that's a good weight off your shoulders, though. You have a lot of support compared to most folks that start up their business. I imagine there's also like the uber rich that have like boards and shit like that, but from the ground up, I think you got it going good, man. You've got a solid hands of folks that know what they're doing and know what they want, I think. And man,
yeah,
that
I mean,
fucking
the support
rocks, dude.
group's everything.
Yeah,
And
dude.
whenever you're a bootstrap operation like me, like, first of all, I spend a lot of time on the business, but we spend a lot of money. So we're
Yep.
not really cash positive. None of us are really taking salaries doing this. This is my focus. So, it is really stressful. I'm the brokest I've ever been, but the growth that my business continues to have makes it worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said earlier, you have to you have to be crazy to
Yep.
do this. I was talking to Sam Brubaker earlier today, and I told him, a sane man would have closed in December, but here I am, still going. Just because the thing is like, you gotta. you got to look at the long-term picture, and you have to have like a defined goal for what you want
Yeah.
your business or product or whatever to look like. And
Yep.
so right now, while I'm in this moment where I'm getting this traction and building up, a community and my brand and like getting people to know who I am, that I haven't really been making the profits on the back end. But
Mm-hmm.
we've been working on that, with the business, with the community, and with the support comes the profits later.
Yep.
If I can make it work now and have that later in the future, that works for me. I'm about how the system's going to be when it's done.
Mm.
So right now the game has been also paying your bills. Like
Oh yeah, dude.
how can we, without you know funding from a big corporation, support small businesses, build a community of people, and do it without the ability to run ads like anybody else can. Like we
It's a
can't.
huge balancing act, isn't it? Huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Man.
and like I oversee all the operations. Uh, Ellen is a great partner. She's with me most of the week, and my wife, she's still got a full-time job. So I try not to put too much of the business on her. I just have her like do some photography with me and come to events with me and stuff because I can't like have her come get off work and then come work for me.
Yeah.
Like you said, there has to be some work-life balance. That would get really stressful and be too much for her. Yeah, well, I don't want to say it's too much for her, but she needs to have time to herself to relax.
True. Yeah,
Um,
man. I think the first thing that comes to mind is that image of the where it's like her hands look like this, mine look like that. I don't remember the
yeah,
exact wording of it, but man, that's
but it's
awesome,
like,
dude.
yeah, but I mean, she works hard. She's got a full-time job. She does the photography for us. She helps me with like the shorts and the ads and the marketing. She helps me come up with ideas and plan stuff for that as well. And we got friends that just like we'll be sitting at dinner or something, and we'll be smoking a joint, doing some dabs or something, and I'll pull out my notebook, and everybody will just help me write down like shorts ideas for Instagram or YouTube. And I kind of do different
Fuck
things
yeah.
on different platforms, so we spend a lot of time producing content right now.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a really solid way to grow your web page too, because that feed directly into your website, I imagine.
Right. I mean, there's some barriers, right? Because, you know, with being specializing in this like accessory in the industry, we kind of are getting hit from two ends that's heavily scrutinized, right? On one end, you have the fact that we're associated with cannabis. So there's like laws and regulations that come with doing like marketing and stuff for cannabis. And on the other hand, you got the fact that we're associated with tobacco. So like where we might have leeway in one industry, we don't have the leeway in the other industry. And so we constantly are getting like, shadow banned or blocked or deleted off of various platforms. So the fact that we're not able to run any ads and they purposefully make it hard for people to find us and we're still able to keep growing, that's what keeps me going. Because we
Wow.
don't get to benefit from those other features. Like we do a lot of videos, for instance, on Instagram, and we'll get a lot of engagement, a lot of shares, but they don't put our videos into like the Reels pages that people scroll through whenever they're watching Reels or the Explore pages or anything like that. We grow from shares only.
Hmm. That is awesome, man. You know,
Yeah.
really, what this whole thing has been reminding me of, dude, and just, having experience as well running a business and trying to build something and literally crawling my fucking way up. It really reminds me of all the naysayers and all the folks that want to sit here and whisper in my ear and tell me all these different bad things that might happen. You might lose a lot of money. What if you waste your time? Is this really what you want to do? Well, why the fuck would I be doing it, bud? You know? One of the biggest things I learned, man, is as soon as I started having motherfuckers, try and put these questions in my head, that's when I realized, surely, this shit was good. I mean, if motherfuckers are out here trying to tell me how to run my shit and giving me all these snide comments and being little shits, oh, fuck. I'm doing something right. So I'm going to keep doing that. And it doesn't really matter.
That, man.
It doesn't matter how much hate I get from you. It doesn't matter how much bullshit you throw my way. It doesn't matter how much you fucking tweet. It doesn't matter how much you screenshot my shit. It doesn't matter how much you fucking watch my shit. Keep watching. But no, I give 0 fucks. Alright, at the end of the day, the reason why I'm doing this is because I fucking want to. And because I can. And I am. Right, Nick?
For sure, dude.
Hell yeah, brother.
I think that there's definitely something to be said with that. I got a lot of friends, that have taken me under, been friends with me, even though they're like maybe have a little bit more established businesses. Maybe they've been in the game longer than me or something. There's definitely something to be said about somebody who's just being critical because they're not accomplishing anything. Like, it's one thing if my mom tells me that she doesn't think that I should do 420 pipes, but it's like, what does my mom do? She's an underwriter. She doesn't have a retirement account. Yeah. No shade. I love my mom, but it's not really like she doesn't really have the legwork, the footing that wants me to take that opinion. She doesn't even know how this stuff works.
You have no power here.
Exactly. But on the other hand, I constantly ask people for reviews and I ask people for like honest feedback, even if it's like negative, just because I see that as like potential money or customers or whatever, appreciation, something that I could do better.
Yeah, potential growth, man.
As long as it's not like, as long as somebody's not getting on here and like, oh, this shit sucks, you should close. That's totally different. But if somebody's like, yo, your website is busy and you got too much text here and you gotta like this is detracting from it, I'll usually run that by a few different people. I'll check the responses, and if people are saying similar stuff, like, yeah, I'm gonna make changes. Like, I don't know everything for sure. If this helps people out and navigate my website better and get more sales and have more people be happy because they're finding what they want, then even better.
Sure.
But so it definitely depends on, I like the mindset of screw the haters if somebody's being a hater, but also sometimes negative feedback is warranted.
100%. And you can definitely always tell what is meant to be harmful and what is meant to be constructive. And
absolutely.
You can also tell who's simply just being a fucking hater.
For sure.
So, Nick, what does 420 Pipes do? What is 420 Pipes?
So we're an online head shop, at the very root of it, for the customer. We're an online head shop. Whenever I first started the company, like I said, it was we were focused totally on selling pipes for $4.20. That was like my main focus. But people started asking for like grinders and bongs and stuff, and I realized that I could get that on the site as well. But while I was beginning, I realized that I was running into a couple of issues. One, I needed a lot more products to like get traffic to my website, and two, I was kind of competing with the head shops that I liked, the people that were near me. Even though I'm an online business, so it's a little bit of a different market, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like spitting on the OGs, I respect them and I respect the small business element of it. And especially since I've been in Springfield, I've been a big appreciator and supporter of small businesses. When I first moved here, I'm from Taylorville, but I've been here since 2019. Yeah. When I first moved here, I started hanging out at Dumb Records, and they were like, they would invite me over to like write letters with them and stuff, and I thought that was like sick. I'd never had anybody do that before. So like really since then, it's been like really important to me to support the people locally. Especially here in Springfield. I got married in LA, and everything out there is like a corporation. Even the spaces that you think are like mom and pop, they're like franchises and chains. Like that's what it's all about over there. They don't have that local culture.
Yeah,
So
dude,
I
they got
started.
crazy money though.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But also a lot of homeless people.
Oh yeah, it's
A lot of
insane,
poverty.
honestly. Oh man. Yeah,
But
that's a conversation in its own. I
for
mean,
sure.
look, man, it's bad everywhere. Like everywhere you look, there is there's a lot of work to be done in this country, folks. All right. There's a lot of things that we can do better, and there are things that we really, really should be doing. Like last year, um, and that's honestly one of them. We need to build more homes, and we need to put a lot more money into figuring out ways to actually get homeless people back on the right track, working, healthy, and if they have mental issues that we need to help sort out, find ways to get those up and running. But the problem is that all of those institutes have been fucking just gutted. All right, they're just hanging by a thread, and that's the true tragedy of everything. Is that either one, it is a good institute that was literally killed because it was good, or it is a bad institute that does really borderline psychotic shit to its patients. Um, and
Yeah, like
that's
in prisons.
oh yeah, dude, exactly. And that's the real tragedy of the homeless crisis, in my opinion, is all of the folks that are out there in the streets, cold as fuck, and they also have mental issues on top of that. Um, and it's just there's a lot of stuff that goes into that that's just absolutely depressing. But yeah, that's it's very sad. Just
It is.
ugh. All right.
It's awful, dude.
So you had mentioned, all of these local shops that you work with. What's it like working with those other head shops?
Yeah, so like the first one that I ever partnered with was Prairie State Hemp, and I went there because I was trying to get into the wholesale game. Like I realized that I could get um, some of my pipes that I was selling, and just like mark them up a couple of cents, and then move them to head shops, just because I had some extras on hand, and I had like no brand at the time, and I told him my idea of like wanting to start the microplace, and he like went ahead and took me on.
Yeah.
Even though he just like gave me a shot. He's like, so like he's a little bit older than me, so he's like, somebody just gave me a shot. I'm gonna give this kid a shot, and kind of grew from there. So from there, I've got a lot of different partners, some of which have given me like a lot of products, but also a lot of connections and just like growth over time, support from each other, and like shout outs and stuff that has really helped all of us to grow at the same time in different ways. And I love it, man. Like, first of all, head shop owners, like head shops are one of like the last things that it's like really controlled by small businesses. Like smoke
Mhm.
shops are all on a whole, there's not like a huge chain of them. Now there's more and more franchises that are starting to come out to kind of corporatize the whole game. But for the most part, like most of the head shops that people are going to are like, Penny Lane or something that's like a staple to the town. That's like that town's head shop, and there's not a million of them. Especially in the Midwest.
Yep.
But so I realized that that's kind of the same situation that bookstores were in. I had this opportunity because I'm sitting here trying to solve all the problems that comes with selling online. So like getting the customers to your website in the first place, and like the laws and regulations, and like shipping, and like all the back end stuff. That's like a total headache when you're in this
Yep.
industry, because literally nobody wants to work with you, and you so I realized if I'm doing that, and I have people over here that aren't taking advantage of websites at all, like aren't selling online at all, and they have products that they could easily put on my site. um it has helped me a lot. It's gotten me a lot of connections, but it's also taught me a lot about not only business and relationships and networking, but the game as a whole. It's given me a
Yep.
different perspective that I wouldn't have had otherwise. um and now, like, because I don't have a tech background, I'm a loan officer, so I've been managing this marketplace on the back end myself,
Mm.
and I structure everything so that way we don't really take that big of a cut. Um, I have scaled back on that. We still have all of our customers. We have like I think 16 or 17 vendors. I should know that number by hand, but we have like 10 of them or so that use my fulfillment center. Um,
Wait a minute.
and I've
So
been
you
working.
guys are self-distributing?
Yeah, we do all the fulfillment from our office here in Springfield. I have a couple of
Awesome.
partners that do distributing at out of their own like garages and stuff. Like
Hmm.
everybody that I'm partnered with is a small business. So if they're doing like self distribution, it's like out of their garage or something.
You want to shout
Not
them
out
out
of
real
a.
quick?
Sure. So, just like off the list, man, my big one, like my vendors that I have right now, Prairie State Hemp, I got Impulse, I got Happy Hut, I got Upper Limits, we got a Good Witch, who is a Instagram influencer. She makes these chillax bags. I got
Hell
Split
yeah.
Society. I have this other one. Um, he makes a product called the Pentapipe. I can't remember his business name. I got a glass blower named Stevie. I
Rad.
got Anti Apparel, which is an apparel company here in Springfield, and I got CS Drift, who sells online exclusively with me, and they're also an Illinois company as well.
Awesome.
And then I probably got. I'm sorry to anybody that I forgot on that list. If I
Uh,
forgot you, no shade.
make sure
But
you fuck him up for me, okay? Fuck
yeah,
him up
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
it.
Send me a bill. That could have been free promo.
So, Nick, you were talking a bit about networking with these folks and what that's been like. Could you give some of the folks an idea of what goes into that?
Oh yeah. So you walk in, you introduce yourself, and you talk to the owner.
Hell
That's all
yeah.
you do.
Just
I
like
think
that,
for
folks.
me, to give some background about myself, I mentioned earlier being like associated with a cult. So I was a Jehovah's Witness growing up
Nice.
until I was 17. So public speaking and like introducing myself, I've
Easy.
had to like learn my whole life,
Light
second
work.
nature. Yeah. But what I learned is, especially whenever you're a business owner, like the main thing is networking. I am in some networking groups. I try to go to them, even though I'm like the only like retailer and always the only online retailer. Everybody else is usually like a photographer or something.
Mm.
Um, I do go to those, but straight up, if you want to get information on a business, if you want to go into business, just ask to work with business owners. They'll tell you everything that they know about business. They'll give you a bunch of skills and like life lessons that you can use to incorporate that into your business, and they'll give you so many connections, so many connections. That is what it's all about. Who you know.
Facts.
Um, and I always thought that that was kind of like bogus. Whenever I was younger, people would tell you if you want to get a good job, it's about who you know. And I
Facts.
was like, oh no, you get a good resume or whatever, you can get whatever job you want. But it is true. I mean, growing here, I've only been able to do because of the connections that I've made with other people who are like cool people in
Yeah.
Springfield. But
It's
for
really
years,
important, man.
yeah, it is. And to be honest, like a lot of people, whenever I was living in Springfield, first of all, like I had no friends or family besides just like, me and Hallie, up against the world. And, working a corporate job in corporate banking at first was kind of isolating everybody around me, that there wasn't very many people around me. And the ones that were, while they were like cool people, they were all like grown adults. I was 18 and these guys were like in their 40s and 50s.
Mm.
So not really in the same place in life. So
Yeah.
it's not like you can go spend time with them after work, but it's not gonna be it's not the same place in life. And so I was kind of negative. I felt like there was nothing to do around here. I even have some posts where I have some people like calling me out because I'm like, oh, Springfield sucks. There's nothing here. Nobody wants to do anything. But like once I realized that I'm saying that there's nothing here, but I'm also not going out and trying to find anything. Like
Mm.
I'm on Google typing in stuff to do on Springfield, and it's all like, touristy stuff. I'm like, huh, maybe I'm the one that's wrong here. And I remember there was this guy named Drew. I can't remember his last name, but he's pretty like heavily associated with Dumb Records. His last name might be like Goodall or something. I'm not sure. Um, but he's in a band. I think he's in a hardcore band. You might know him. And
Yeah,
he
Drew
posted on one of my
Cottridge.
yes, yeah, yeah, that guy. He would pop up every once in a while, and like every time I said something negative about Facebook or about Springfield, he's like, "You should come out and do something," you know.
Mm,
And it's true. He was right.
yeah,
There is stuff to do. You just gotta go out and look. And just like that, there's connections and there's people that are willing to help you. You just gotta ask. You can't write it off, otherwise you're not gonna find the opportunity. You have to go out and find the opportunity.
facts. You definitely have to, man. That's really one of the bigger things that you learn as you continue to grow is that fostering relationships tends to be very monumental if you're wanting to build things. And if you want to build things, whether it be a business, group, a clique, a cult, whatever you want to do, you gotta be good with, or at least, you gotta be comfortable in your skin to be able to go and talk to folks and share ideas and not, this isn't, you gotta be comfortable with saying no and sharing your own opinion. Don't become part of the crowd. Be who
You
you
have to
are.
be you have to do it until you become comfortable with it. Even
True.
if you're not comfortable with it, that's not a reason not to. You still gotta fake it till you make it.
Facts. That is very true. And one of the big things what are some of the big things that you've learned from networking and kind of having all of these branching out moments?
Sure. So, like I said before, like society or not society, but like your social group, social equity is real equity. So just being comfortable talking to people and getting those connections is going to be like the number one thing to helping your business grow initially. And also making a name for yourself when you have absolutely no name. You have to get yourself established. So networking is going to be the quickest way to establish yourself without any brand, and it's usually free. You know.
And I
Um,
imagine marketing also goes pretty hand in hand with that, right?
right, yeah, but I mean, if you don't have the budget to market, if you're brand new into the business, um, maybe go networking first before you start doing marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and then the networking might help you position your marketing as well. Because what happens is that a lot of people think that with business that it's about selling a product or like a commodity, So like people think that my business is selling bongs, for instance, and like when I first opened, I kind of thought that that was true. It was a meme idea to sell pipes for $4.20 and call yourself 420 pipes, but I realized that like I had to put my personal values into it. And once I did that, it's like I realized that my business is more about, the small business and like the messages that we carry along with that. Positivity, education, teaching people about the plant, teaching people how to use it and get started. And then I also offer bonds. People can buy that. But I have a lot of, free stuff to offer around that and a whole community to offer around that. I think that's where maybe people should work on talking to people that are in the industry or at least doing something, have been established and doing business for a while before they start running ads, before they start spending money that way, because they probably, if you've never been in business before, you probably don't really have very much of a brand identity established, especially if you're younger where you might not even have an identity established. So it's definitely helpful to get feedback and to get people, like I went to a lot of people, even whenever I was brand new, and still now I constantly am going to people that are more established than I am and asking for feedback and telling them my ideas and like laying my plans out. And there's some things that you want to keep close to the chest, but other times it's like I have this idea, I think it'll work. This guy's a little bit smarter than me in this area, or maybe even if they're not, I'm gonna tell them the idea and see if they think it's cool. And getting
Hell
the
yeah.
feedback from those people that are way more expert, like way more established than you. So I think that's the number one thing. Just find mentors. I got a lot of them. A lot of people that I would consider to be mentors in different areas. Um, that I have a lot of respect for.
Oh
That's been
yeah.
my number one. And then my number two is just customer service. No matter what you're doing, as long as you're focused on the experience of your customer or, you know, your patient or whatever, having a good interaction with them and giving them a good experience is going to come first. Like, even as an online business, I try to constantly be answering my customers' questions, concerns, emails, and doing refunds and stuff like that. In my industry, there's a lot of head shops that don't do refunds. You know, all sales are final.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not exactly like that, you know. I have a refund policy, but I work with the customer. If I think something's not their fault or if something's defective or whatever, of course I'm gonna, pay for that myself, even if that means I'm losing money in the long term. The reputation that you have with the customer and making sure that they're satisfied but also treated fairly within reason, of course, don't get taken advantage of,
True.
is essential, man. It's ideal. Like how often you got to deal with online companies, especially if that's what somebody wants to do if they want to do e-commerce. How often are you trying to get help or feedback from them and they don't help you? Like just helping somebody kind of sets you apart from the rest.
True.
I know that because I have money that has been not very much, like $70 or something. That's in a Robinhood account that I haven't been able to access, and every time I try to get with customer service, they don't reply to you for days, and then I'm
No
just like, I'm
way.
done. It's not worth the $70.
Oh my god. That sucks, dude. So
Yeah.
what's been one of the big things that I guess you've learned about yourself through building your brand and through building your company?
I have learned that I am ridiculously resilient.
Hell yeah.
um, to the point of a little bit of insanity. Even the times that I've thought like, oh, maybe I should quit. Like I said, like a sane person would have quit already.
Mm-hmm.
I just I realized that I'm gonna keep going. It's more. It's not about just profiting. It's about what you do. It's about the impact that you make and the change that you can make. And I've
Facts.
realized that that is something that I am passionate about. Um, I'm just a kid that wants to change the world, so I'm gonna do it by selling bongs.
Fuck yeah, bro. And any do's and don'ts that you can share about building a company?
Um, you're putting me on the spot with these, man. Um, uh,
Yeah, I told you I had some good
so
ones today, okay?
for sure. So this is like a little bit more technical, for people that are getting into business. So what I would say is when it comes to your business, no matter what it is, okay, do structure it like a machine, like a system. Make it so that way even if you're not planning on doing a franchise or if your business doesn't work, like quote unquote as a franchise, that you build it like a machine. Because otherwise what's going to happen and build it to make sure that the business works, because otherwise what happens if you don't is that there starts to be errors that you could have avoided by setting these systems up. And a lot of people think that it becomes like tedious, and I thought that for a long time. But once I started systemizing my business, my back end scheduling stuff, like it all the pieces start falling together. And there's definitely like a disconnect with some small business owners where they don't build the system, or they have like a really good employee and they rely on that employee or something. But then they're not able to like consistently run their business. They start having issues if that employee leaves, or like it's not the employee's business, so maybe quality starts to go down. So definitely like systemize it and build your business around what the business needs, and then have a good company culture with your
Mm-hmm.
people, and don't undervalue your employees. Don't put pressure on them that they don't need, and don't try to build your system around the employee's personality, because if that employee leaves, now there's a hole in your business that's not going to be easy to fix.
True. Very, very true.
um yeah, so that's those are some lessons that I've definitely learned, like like as a startup,
Hell yeah,
you just got
man.
to have a good team. You got to have stuff that's on the same page, and if you're working with other businesses too, you got to have systems that keep you in check.
So,
um
really quickly, as I'm closing this up, I do want to bring in kind of like a little chill one. What do you think is in the future for weed? You know, do you think we'll ever go smokeless?
Like to just carts
I don't
and
know,
dab
like
pins and stuff.
some form of, I guess, cart, or maybe like some rig even that has a way to make it smokeless. So you can
I
fire
mean,
up this fat ass rig in a fucking room by your parents or some shit, or in a fucking RV while everybody's telling you don't smoke inside. We don't want a bunch of smoke everywhere and this whole thing smelling like weed. And I'm over here trying to rip my 8-footer and you're being negative. Sorry. Yeah.
sounds personal.
Anything smokeless? Do you think that's ever that's possible?
I, I don't know if that's possible because obviously you're talking about the chemistry of the plant itself. You gotta light it up and vaporize it. It's always gonna like emit smells and vapors unless you're consuming it in like an edible or like a drink or something.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some combustion that's happening. Even with like a cart, you can light that up, the cartridge itself, and have minimal smells and smokes, but it's still gonna have a
Smoke.
specific odor,
Yeah.
and smoke. So I don't really think that that's gonna be. I'm not a chemist, bro, but I would think
Along
that
for the
physically,
day.
if I was a chemist, I would have a different career. But I would think that maybe that isn't possible. But if you want to talk about carts, man, I don't really know how I feel about carts. I feel like they're microwave dinners anyway.
Whoa! How do you feel about, I guess, dabs as a whole then?
I do love dabs. So dabs and carts are different, right? Because
True.
like a cartilage is usually made with distillate, and a dab can even just be like live, fresh press. It's just wax,
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
you can do like a cold extraction
So
or a
one
heat
has
extraction.
extra chemicals, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, it's got extra chemicals, but they're safe, right? I mean, they're tried and true, but it's just not the same. It doesn't give me the same high that even a dab does. And whenever it comes to a cart with so many devices now, that you can put in and do like a vape on the go with your actual wax itself,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the carts, and even the good ones like the live resin ones. If you get those from the dispensary and you're not a medical patient, those things are going to be really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
However, I will say I think carts are really interesting for the exploring of different cannabinoids. So there's like hundreds of there's over 100 cannabinoids, and naturally we're all smoking like Delta 9. That's what standard cannabis is.
Yeah.
But because of the hemp industry explosion and whatnot, there's been a lot of exploration over how the different cannabinoids work, and most of that's being done with vapes. That's how, but that's because you can like really customize your high with the vape. I think that's interesting. But for me, I smoke flower and I do dabs every day.
Hell yeah,
Um,
brother.
so, but
And
my
so-
wife, she likes her cart because it's nice and discreet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's oh man, I love carts. God, I'm not even gonna start.
Yeah, you're a cart guy.
Oh, dude. I mean, look, I have a unicorn in front of me. It's my vaporizer. I smoke flower, fucking carts. I love weed, bro. And I don't care what form it is.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's just it's awesome. So you
Well,
have a podcast, right, Nick?
Correct. Yeah. So we have been making a backlog of content. I am a small business, so like that whole podcast is being produced by me as well. So I'm taking the time to. It's a video podcast. I got a 360 camera that I put on a table, and we do a smoke circle where we
Whoa.
talk about life.
Oh,
And-
fuck
yeah,
yeah,
which is
dude!
kind of
I'm
like-
100%, brother. You give me a date and a time that is not a weekend, and I'm not on tour. It's fuck yeah, brother.
yeah.
Oh my god,
Hell yeah.
gonna
So yeah,
smoke
that's
that shit
our
up.
new thing. I haven't posted any episodes yet. I'm in the middle. I had Sam Brubaker on from Prairie State Hemp. I had a really
Nice.
interesting conversation. So I had a podcast that I did with just Ellen and I. That was going to be the second episode. But I think what I'm gonna do is drop the first and second, move the second episode to my third episode, and then drop the first and second episode at the same time, and then I'll still have if I'll do a couple more that are scheduled, and I'll have a nice backlog. And so once I'm able to drop it, people will be able to see how it's gonna feel for 2 episodes, and then we'll have something new every week. So
that rocks, dude.
that's what I think at least now.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
That's sick. I'm excited to come on, dude. I'm very happy that we got to have you on here, brother. Thank you for coming on the show. And
you got any more questions for me, my man?
no, sir. We are about to wrap this bitch up. We are officially our longest episode in the entirety of the podcast. And
really, I feel like we didn't even talk about much, man.
It's crazy, dude. Like I'm excited. I'm excited to come onto your podcast because we have so much more that we can talk about. And dude, I'm fucking excited to have you back, brother. All right, I'm excited to reconnect with you. We'll have you, probably in a couple of months or whatever. And ladies and gentlemen, this finishes our second episode for season 2 of the Chug Life podcast. And we are live in Springfield, Illinois. And man, if you haven't, I want you to go and check out 420pipes.com. This is not a fucking advertisement. I make zero money off of this. And man, I am more excited to tell you about them and to tell you to go to their fucking website. Check out their shit. It fucking rocks. And you'll probably buy a couple of things and spend way too much money on it. And it's great. You should support local businesses. All right? Do it.
Smoke local.
Have a good one, y'all. Love you guys. Thanks for checking it out. Go comment, talk some shit, tell us what you think. Hit the follow button. And yeah, next one next week.